reconciliation. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moving Mining into the Future with the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. My name is Erica, and I am your host on behalf of the Artemis Project and the co-founder Heather Gamble and our admin person extraordinaire, Sandra. We want to thank you for joining us, or if you're watching the replay, that's great too. Before we get started, as part of our commitment to reconciliation, I'd like to invite Kari to step up and speak to us, please. Go ahead.
Just trying to get this. Oh, good. You got it up for me. I love this.
We got you, Kari. Do you want to say a little bit about who you are as by way of introduction?
I absolutely will. It's actually interesting you asked that. I was just at a Camp Molly in, down in White City, Saskatchewan. And my whole presentation was basically talking about the message, who are you, right? Because it's something that we get asked a million times. And there's many ways that we can be defined as people. Sometimes when people are asking, who are you, whether it's on the phone, whatever, it might be physical attributes. It might be, what's your occupation? It could be, where do you come from? A lot of people ask that because they know that you're a minority and they want to know where you come from. The other one is your personality, right? And there's many things that I am: firefighter, mine rescuer, scientist, toxicologist, I guess, environmental manager, nonprofit organizer. But honestly, one of the things that I'd love to be known as when I am done is that I was kind. So personality traits are a big thing because physical attributes change, jobs change, everything else. And one of the other things that I'd like people to be aware of is that I am a First Nations woman. I am from Peter Ballantine Cree Nation and reside on Treaty 10 territory. And I'd like to acknowledge that I am on the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Rocky Cree, which is also home to Peter Ballantine Cree Nation. It's important for me as a First Nations woman to acknowledge the land we live on, because me as a young kid, I remember sitting in grade 4 social studies, learning about Indigenous peoples like we didn't exist anymore. It was, I was sitting around and I was like, but I'm still here, and they showed the depictions, and you see it in the movies, you see it everywhere, that there's these depictions that Indigenous people look a certain way. And often I have people say, well, you don't seem Indigenous. And I was like, well, what the hell does that mean, right?
Wow.
So yeah, and it comes from a place of it's not necessarily willful, or it is willful ignorance in a lot of ways, but it's said innocently enough without realizing the impact of that.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that, what you see in the movies, the John Wayne shows, all that kind of stuff, very stereotypical, long black straight hair, wearing leather, feathers in your hair, all that kind of stuff. That isn't the norm, or that isn't common. I mean, it is common in some groups, not necessarily in mine. And it is an older fashion type, because it is something that we lost as people through the residential school system and through colonialism. The Mi'kmaq, for example, a lot of them are fairly fair-skinned. My mom is fairly fair-skinned, and she is 100% First Nations. So words matter, and education matters. So one of the things that I want to make sure that people learn more about Indigenous people in this country. It's important to recognize, especially in this industry of mining, that we are only part of, it only exists because of its successes, because of the sacrifices and injustices that were, doled out to Indigenous people. And as an Indigenous person, I want to make sure that I commit to being an accessible and non-judgmental resource to others. So when people do say things like, well, you don't seem Indigenous, I use it as
Mhm.
an opportunity to have that conversation. I'm always here to discuss thoughts or questions one may have about Indigenous cultures, struggles, traditions. And if you or anyone in this group fear that one might be punitive about question that you have, and you're really scared to ask it, please give me a call. You don't have to fear that from me. I don't represent all Indigenous people by any means, and can only speak to what I've learned or experienced, but hopefully I can shed some light or send you in the right direction. One of the other things that I do commit to is supporting Indigenous run businesses, Indigenous artists, one of the big things that I'm doing, hopefully in 2026, with my organization, Diamonds in the Rough, is bringing light and empowerment to Indigenous women in the mining industry with a specific focus on mine rescue. Our goal as an organization is to actually have the first all-female Indigenous team from Canada participating in the International Mines Rescue Competition, which I believe is set to be held in Zambia. So we are very underrepresented in mining, and I really want to help foster leadership and basically build those role models. I mean, they're already there, so there's really not much to build, but it's building that confidence and making them more visible so young girls can see them in that role as well. When we talk about land acknowledgement as well, here's the little bit of it, the education piece for people. Um, it's a statement that names the Indigenous peoples past and present in the territories that you are currently on, and recognizing that it is Indigenous land and land that Indigenous people have rights to. Often today, I mean, people are like, oh, I have to do a land acknowledgement, but aren't necessarily thinking, okay, like, how do I make it meaningful? How do I make it seem sincere and genuine? And I often I get asked to do them because I'm Indigenous, and it is a great opportunity for me to put that education piece into it. Like we talked about, Erica, I do like being asked, but I mean, like I said, it's a great opportunity for me. I also like to help people create their own land
Yes.
acknowledgement and guide them through that. So I'd really like to do that right now, if I have the time.
You do.
um,
And Kari, I just want to jump in to say thank you, like a sincere thank you for bringing your own story forward and to emphasize, Indigenous people are not a thing of the past. It's good that we're learning about them in
yeah.
schools. And we want to go one step further and foster that true understanding because for those of us that are descended from settlers or from immigrants, we don't necessarily have that
Hmm.
context. When I was
Yeah.
in school, we did not learn about it. We don't have
Yeah.
that. So I'd like to think we're making progress and there's
We
more that
are.
each one of us can do
Yeah.
in order to further that. So love
Yeah.
what you're sharing, love what you're doing. Really want to thank you for doing the emotional labor and doing the work to help educate us. And I know that does not go without a cost to your personal energy because this
Yeah.
can be very difficult work
Yeah.
and we honor you
But
for it and
hey,
we thank you for it.
if not helping educate others, or helping people in general, what's the point to all this, right? So I mean, in the mining industry, that is what we do. Inadvertently, that is the end product, right? We are helping people, so that's what I'm here for. And if it requires me to share a story, I don't mind. Sometimes you're right, it is emotional, but I welcome the opportunity. So just to talk a little bit about what a meaningful acknowledgement entails, it really does entail a lot of self-reflection. And you really need to think about a few things before you go into it to making it meaningful. There's usually four main attributes to a land acknowledgement, and it does vary based on whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, because there are different acknowledgements that you can make. Your story will be different. One of the first things is naming the territories you are currently on and acknowledge who on that land has inherent rights to it using past, present, and future tenses. Because, like we said, we are still here and we're strong. The second part is explaining why it's important for you to acknowledge the land and its Indigenous people, what you have experienced or not experienced that has impacted your knowledge or lack of knowledge of Indigenous peoples. Don't sugarcoat the past. It's okay to use very pointed words such as genocide. Genocide of culture is something that happened, and it is important to talk about it and not sugarcoat it. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Indigenous people have been uncomfortable for many years, so it's okay to be uncomfortable too. Step into it. The third thing is to look at what the meeting's about, what you were gathering there for, and reflect on the impact of the work on Indigenous people directly or systemically in that field, or for the purpose of that meeting. What are we trying to solve? What are we trying to build? All those kinds of things. And I mean, in mining, we mine on the lands that Indigenous people have. So doing that, one of the big things that we can do as people is to make sure that we have that Indigenous consultation, get elders involved in our stuff, which is the fourth part. What are you doing to address the impact? How are you ensuring recognition or contribution to reconciliation and Indigenous empowerment? Are you learning the language, integrating customs, educating other, supporting Indigenous organizations, businesses, Indigenous-led change movements and campaigns, or that community engagement piece? So Indigenous territories, importance of acknowledgement, reflect on the impact and personal commitment. If you're trying to empower people, that is the best way to approach it. If you're doing it from a way of guilt, just reflect a little more and find out, dig a little deeper to find out what you can do to empower others. And it really will set things straight within you, because I know there is a lot of people take on guilt that isn't necessarily well deserved at all. So go easy on yourself. For
and
sure.
it's not helpful either, right?
No.
I think it can be really understandable to hear about these difficult things. You know, you mentioned the word
Yeah.
genocide and the harm that's been done. And,
Yeah.
when those stories come out and we start to learn more and understand about residential schools and the Orange Shirt Project, and lots of these
Yeah.
activities that are out there now, these observances, that first recognition can be very
Yeah.
difficult for people. So I
Oh,
so appreciate
absolutely.
you bringing that
Yeah.
up, that let yourself
Yeah.
feel it. It is uncomfortable
Yeah.
to acknowledge. This is really
Yeah.
heavy, difficult stuff. And
Yeah.
don't
It
let
is.
yourself stay stuck there. You want to
Yeah.
move into action.
Well, and a lot of people think that, all of this comes from blame, that Indigenous
Mhm.
people like myself want to blame people of today for what's happening. No, we want acknowledgement of what we've gone through because of colonialism and the impacts that it's had. A lot of it systemically. There are a lot of microaggressions out there that people don't realize. One of them I explained, like,
Yeah,
you don't seem Indigenous. That's,
right.
it's a pretty powerful statement that comes from a place of ignorance, and not necessarily willful ignorance at all. But just be careful, and that's why I want people to reach out to me. I've had a lot of people that I've worked with in the past say, okay, don't get mad, but I have a question and I'm hoping you can answer it. I won't get mad. Won't get mad. I might get passionate, absolutely, but I really want to commit to making sure that I am that open source, that I won't be punitive in my answer, that I will be as educational as I can be about answering any questions that are out there about Indigenous people, Indigenous culture. Because I know sometimes it's very hard to approach Indigenous people and ask a question that you think, I should know this, or does this sound really bad? I don't know yet. So I am open in that way. So please reach
Well,
out,
Kari,
anyone.
thank you for that offer. And I love that you brought up supporting Indigenous businesses. That's something I've
Mhm.
personally tried to do as
Yeah.
well. And for members of our audience, they might be interested in learning about or supporting your organization, Diamonds in the Rough. So Sandra, if you
Yes.
can flip the slide, let's let Kari give us the scoop on the opportunity to collaborate with Diamonds in the Rough.
Yeah, so we do need sponsors. We always need sponsors. We are First Nations led right here, female led, yes, right here as well. And we're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and the sense of belonging in the mining industry. And we're doing that through the vehicle of mine rescue. So to date, we've trained over 20 women in mine rescue in an all-female environment, and we've just been astounded by the amount of growth that we've seen in a very short time. We usually meet for 5 days, do 4 days of intensive training, and then we put the ladies through a competition. And the amount of skill in mine rescue, the confidence goes through the roof. And the leadership ability, which we need in women in industry, it's just amazing to see that develop. And these women are becoming very, very vocal. And one of the videos that I show at a lot of places, it's you know, they really talk about how I don't have to change who I am, and that Diamonds gives them the backbone to do that. And it's been great because we've gone to 3 competitions so far. In 2018, we participated in the International Mines Rescue Competition in Russia, which was the first time that there had been an all-female team. We also came 5th in underground and 15th out of 25 overall, which was insane. Other than us 8 ladies on this team, there was 2 other ladies out of, I think there was over 160 competitors. And keep in mind, these ladies had never met each other before, and we did phenomenal. And in 2019, we competed as the first all-female team to compete nationally in Canada in the National Western Regionals in Fernie. We placed middle of the pack again, and we came in second in first aid, which was awesome. And again, there was a couple repeats on there. We allow the girls or the ladies to have two chances to participate, because it's great to have the veterans teaching the newbies. And they did phenomenal, but for the most part, most of them had never met before, and they do great in such a short training time. Now, of course, COVID happened, so there was a few years before we competed, but in 2022, we competed in West Virginia, and most inexperienced teams, 3 of them had less than a year of experience, 3 had less than 3 years of experience, 1 had less than 5, and 1 had 16. And they competed against teams who had been training together for 10 years. They placed 6th overall out of 22 teams. They finished 2nd in high angle rope, 3rd in tech and theory. They placed 4th in firefighting, 9th in the underground portion. So they did absolutely phenomenal. And again, just their skills as a group just increased, and they've been such great advocates. They're very, very young women as well on this team. So it's great to see how strong they are now and how much further they're going to go in their career. And it's nice to know that we contributed to that. And we do what we do because it works. We train differently. We provide that opportunity to create allies amongst women, because often that we do feel like competitors. And we get that camaraderie going, and realizing that also, we are not here to go out there and say, hey, we're better than men. That is not it at all. We're here to say that we're competent and we want to do it. So why not include us? And that was one of the best things that I saw in West Virginia, even though, of course, we always want to win first place. But I was quite happy with how we placed. Out of the 5 top teams that came ahead of us, 4 of them had both men and women on it. And it was great to see, because we are better together. I'm just so proud of the ladies and where they've come. And I'm so thankful for my co-founders, Randy DeCecco and Bruce Coley, because they're such strong allies as well. And they put their heart and soul into it, and it's been a learning experience for them too, working with an all-female group and changing things up a little bit. And I've had one of them come to me a few times and say, I don't know what to do with this, Kari. What do I do? And so providing that opportunity for, okay, how do we need to change this up a little bit, or maybe we should just do what we would do normally. And if you think it's not appropriate, then maybe you need to think about how you're treating the men too, right? And
Well, that's
they
so, yeah, such a great
yeah,
comment, Kari. And I sometimes have a little chuckle myself, and my reply to a man that ends up outnumbered in a place like mining is to say, well, now you know how we feel, to be the only
yeah,
man in the room, that's often the case for
yeah,
women. And for a lot of us, that has been our story,
yeah,
right? The ones that have
yeah.
spent their career in the mining industry. But just
Well,
love the
yeah,
story of what you're
yeah.
sharing. And for anyone who's
It's
watching who is thinking about, you know, what are the things that we can do to retain talent and to nurture the talent that we have. A lot of mining companies are very committed to nurturing an environment where everyone can belong, including women, including Indigenous people, including other types of underrepresented folks. And this could be part of the solution, right? What I hear you sharing is
absolutely,
not only are there women in mining, there are women in mining who are thriving. They are learning new
yeah,
skills, they are bonding, they are
yeah,
challenging themselves physically to do something they've
yeah.
never done before, and they're succeeding in a really quick, impressive amount of time.
Yeah. Well, and in 2022, like 2018, we had 10 women at the competition. I didn't even count in 2022. There were so many. It was so great to see. And a lot of those places that we saw them had approached us, Diamonds in the Rough, to help them get there. So it was great to contribute to that as well. And we do need sponsorship. We're going to Colombia in September. I'm hoping I'm not paying for it myself. So I need 1,000 people to give me $100.
There you go. Kari,
So
thank you. Thank you for letting us know what you're up to. I mean, your story is just so fantastic and such a shining example of, your leadership and your commitment to lifting up other women and to being that great example of what can happen, when women come together and really test themselves. You've got these amazing stories so far, and I'm sure lots more success and exciting stories to come. So we're going to make sure that Kari's information is available for everyone who's on the call right now and anyone who's watching. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to give us some of your perspective as an Indigenous woman in mining, and to give us not only a very meaningful opening, dedicated to reconciliation for our event today, but also giving some people some tools and some insights that they can use to create meaningful reconciliation moments going forward. What a gift, Kari. Thank you so much.
you are welcome. I do have to jet. I am off on the road again. So
You've got things
I
to
will see you
do.
tomorrow. I'll see you
Okay,
tomorrow.
amazing.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Kari.
Thank you
Thank you so
guys.
much.
And again, reach out anytime. Bye.
Wonderful. So appreciate that.